I'm Russ Cohen. We've got Anthony Mingione. And how are you?
Doing all right, Russell, on this fine summer day. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like this is we're a group that is a cheese lovers group here. Maybe not Mike, but we'll just throw that out there. And Michael Jello, how are you?
I love cheese. Can't you tell?
Okay. All right. Just checking. And we have Jesse Piers from Bar Down Beauties podcast and NHL.com. Jesse, how are you?
Also a cheese lover. My 7-year-old actually told me the other day that cheese is his love language, which I didn't know he knew anything about, but I can appreciate that.
Has he been
cheese
watching...
part or the love language part?
It is, yeah, like the whole part, like the love language part is like, do you understand what that means? And I think he did. Like, and I
feel like he's watching, Lifetime too much or something like that.
No, this is definitely a TikTok, Instagram kind of thing. It's definitely not that.
Strange things kids learn, I tell you.
But yeah, they learn things quick. All right, so let's talk about. I don't know if you had a chance to go to Dev Camp or even check out the draft. You did, okay. So Adam Badak's an interesting guy because I always say for teams, if you get somebody in the 4th round, swing really hard, swing for the fences. And this guy's got like a lot of skating ability, a lot of skill. He's actually a really good penalty killer too. And yeah, he's 5'7", but you know what? If you're in the 4th round, who cares? So I'm wondering, Jesse, how he's been received there.
Really good. Dev Camp this year was a little different than years past. There was actually no on-ice component, so we didn't get to see
just like the Blackhawks.
Yeah, like more teams are doing that, which it's so weird because it's weird. They still have this media availability day, but they're off doing video sessions and they're in the gym and then they're doing team building stuff. So we never got to see any of that speed that Adam Badak obviously has and any of that playmaking. But I think he's really excited. He's got that unique storyline, right, of leaving his family, playing in the USHL, which we love. I'm excited to see what he could bring. Again, the draft this year for Minnesota kind of ho-hum a little bit, right? No first round, which they obviously gave up by getting David Juracek from the Columbus Blue Jackets. So it was kind of melodramatic. And then the Dev Camp, the big name was Zibuliam because he's obviously the guy everybody's circled to look forward to trading camp. But no, Adam seems really good. Again, I wish I would have gotten to see him with my 2 eyeballs and gotten a little glimpse of it.
I wish fans could have seen it. If I could see Bill Garren, I'd be like, Bill, if nothing else, you got to skate these guys so the fans can see them.
Well, and that's the other thing. Fans didn't even realize Dev Camp had happened because there was no opportunity for them to see these guys, right? And it was just a handful. I want to say there were probably no more than 20 players invited to camp this year, whereas opposed to past years where it's been a huge roster load of kids. So definitely a different approach, a different way to do it. But it was nice to face-to-face meet some of these guys. We got to meet the second round pick, as well for Minnesota, their top pick this year. And then again, to check in with guys like Zibuliam and Ryder Ritchie and other prospects that are making their way through the lines.
Jesse, Bill Garren has been crippled the last 3 years with the onerous buyout amounts on both Ryan Suter and Zach Parise. Now he's unencumbered by it. I think it's less than $2 million. And really, he hasn't done anything with it. And we know the situation with Kaprizov 1 year away from unrestricted free agency and the Marco Rossi situation. Are you a little surprised that he didn't go out in free agency, even though this was a bad free agent class, and do something more than Nicolas Aube-Kubel?
It's kind of funny. In Minnesota, we just chuckle. We're like, of course it's going to be a bad free agency class. Of course everybody's going to re-sign and extend with their respective teams. Right. There were players that you certainly kind of figured Minnesota was out of market for. If Sam Bennett wasn't going to re-sign in Florida, don't think he had a taste to come here. I don't think Mitch Marner obviously was ever in those conversations, which was unfortunate because I do think Bill Garren not only wanted to, but I think for the fan base's sake, he needed to, because as you'd mentioned, we've been talking about these damn salary caps for the past 4 seasons and how they're hamstrung. And Bill Garren has done a pretty remarkable job with what he has and what he hasn't. The good thing is I'm almost glad, though, knowing the free agents that were left available for Minnesota on free agency day and seeing how people overpay. Everybody loves to overpay on July 1, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm actually very glad that Bill Garren kind of sat idle and is waiting it out, as he had mentioned to us in his availability following day 1. Now he has money to do something at trade deadline. Now he has something that he can do. Last year he really sat on his hands because he wasn't able to get in on the big names, the Brock Nelsons and the guys that were all moved at deadline. Whereas this year he's looking at it as, hey, maybe we do, especially if they become injury prone for the second straight, be the third straight year. In fact, having that opportunity is good. And as you'd mentioned, Kirill Kaprizov, obviously you got to save a pretty penny of side for him. Brock Faber's contract will start kicking in. There are certain things. So yes, it's frustrating, I think, because Minnesota, you were expecting these fireworks, pun intended, that were going to go off now that Parise, Suter, the main part of the buyouts were gone. But again, I'd rather him that than overpay for a player that we don't necessarily need. The Tarasenko addition too, fine, it's a wash, right? Like, it's not like he's spending an extreme amount of money on a bottom six player. Hopefully that comes eventually down the line, but even adding Nico Sturm, I think, will help the team. But I'm excited what he can do come trade deadline, and if the team needs any refurbishments then when there's some more names available.
Jesse, has the Marco Rossi ship sailed? Like, do you see him any chance at this point now of him being back in a Minnesota Wild uniform come the fall?
I mean, possibly, if only by necessity, right? Because it doesn't look like Bill Garin can find that dance partner he needs for a trade. And Marco Rossi, obviously dissatisfied with his playing time in the playoffs. I think Bill Garin maybe prematurely shot himself in the foot a little bit, demoting a player like Marco Rossi, who had 60 points, who was only 23, who has done everything the organization has asked him, demoting him to the fourth line. As much as they wanted to try to say it wasn't a demotion, it was a demotion. To put him down there was a definite demotion over players like Gus Nyquist and other names that maybe didn't belong in the top six. I think other teams saw that, and I think other teams definitely recognized, okay, what's going on here? So I think any conversations Bill Garin has had, they've probably been lowballed, right? You can't give away Marco Rossi, again, a 23-year-old winger who was second in the team in points. You can't give him away for nothing. You need to get a centerman back, especially when you're so lacking of depth up the middle. You can't just give him away for anything. And I'm sure that's what some of the offers were. I think I saw Vancouver offered a first round. That does him no good. That's not going to refurbish the Marco Rossi. Now, the other problem Bill Garin has is he has Marco Rossi at a set tier for payouts and a set tier for contract term. And Marco Rossi sees that very differently. He, at the end of the season said, I'm a top six forward. I am deserving of this. And again, I think his play this year certainly warrants him to put himself a little bit in that conversation. So him and his agent are doing what's best for them, and Bill Garin's doing what he believes best for the team. So it's going to drag out. I don't think there's going to be a resolution. It would not surprise me if Marco Rossi is still with the team at the start of the year. My curiosity is he going to hold out, or is he going to play, right? What is that resolution going to look like? But it's going to be a bit, we joked with Bill Garin a couple weeks ago. He actually, when he would go to arbitration, Marco Rossi's agent was working with the PA and would help him get the money that he wants. So he knows how it works. He knows that kind of situation. So they're good friends. They haven't talked in about a week, but again, what is there to talk about? The two sides still remain fairly far apart. So it'll be interesting to see what happens come August, frankly.
Yeah, my prediction is it'll go a couple days into training camp, and he'll sign like a short-term, higher AAV deal than Garren wants to give. I think that's what's going to end up happening.
I think so too. I think it's, again, each side's going to have to give a little to what they want, because I don't think Marco Rossi seems like a guy that does just want to sit on his hands and pull a Willie Nylander, right, and just sit out for the majority of the year. But Bill Garin also, again, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. That's the dramatics, the awkwardness. It's going to be awkward, but I'm kind of here for it too. But yeah, I think it'll be longer than Bill Garin wants it to be, for sure.
Well, I mean, one thing, Rossi, I mean, if he's going to be a free agent, this is the worst possible year to be a restricted free agent, with everybody trying to get big players, and he's a 5'10" skilled center. Everybody needs centers, but the size, with everybody trying to emulate the Panthers, bad timing.
Exactly. And that's been Bill Garin's kind of knock on Rossi itself, is that he is a smaller guy. As much as Billy's trying to backtrack those comments now, like, no, we love Marco. We want Marco. If anybody offer sheets us, we'll match their offer sheet, yada, yada. Like, all right, buddy. All right, we'll see. But Garin, like most GMs, as you mentioned, wants a big body. And Nico Sturm's a prime example of that. They went out and got a guy like that to be that fourth line, big, sturdy, heavy hitter. Sam Bennett obviously made a lot of people salivate over that type of player. And Marco Rossi, though, is a very good player. Like,
he plays bigger than his body. I don't think that's a problem at all.
He goes to the middle. He absolutely does.
Right. He can get in the gritty areas. He has the right kind of attitude. He stays healthy, which again, as I mentioned for the Wild, is very important, especially in the past 2 seasons. And for him to improve on a 40-point season and do 60 points at just 23, I think he's going to be a good player in the long run.
Yeah, I think so. So you're probably not ready for a Jacob Middleton story, but I have one. And I was at a game and I was talking to a guy that I know who's in scouting with the San Jose Sharks. And I was like, we were just chatting. I'm like, oh, Jacob Middleton, he's on my fantasy team. He goes, he's on your fantasy team. I'm like, yeah, because we include like block shots and hits and other things. And he gets some points too. The whole scouting staff walked over to me and we all started talking about Jacob Middleton. This is when he was in San Jose. So now he's in Minnesota, obviously a real likable guy. What's his impact been?
Tremendous. Again, another guy that has had to eat up more minutes and play a role larger than he was anticipated to. My favorite thing about Jacob Middleton, besides the missing teeth and the mustache and just the character, is he reminds us he was picked right before Connor McDavid because he was the last overall pick by the San Jose Sharks. So he likes to put that in his back pocket. He also sometimes thinks he's like Nick Lidstrom. So when he scores, we call him Jake Midstrom. Just a great guy. He's
great.
found it is like, that's the type of personality he brings. And again, he's bringing those different elements. I don't think anybody expected him to. I don't think when Bill Garin went and got him, you expected Jake Middleton to have an impact at all. I think I pictured him as a third pair defenseman, but what he's been able to do with Brock Faber in the absence of Jared Spurgeon and in the absence of Jonas Brodin. Now, obviously Middleton did get hurt this year. But prior to that, I mean, just very resilient. He's got the big body too, right? He's tough as nails. And once in a while he can have a little finesse, which is very impressive. So I think he's been very well received, signed an extension last year. Obviously Minnesota's very happy with him. He's affordable. And again, it's that size back there too, which is definitely needed compared to Brodin and Spurge, who are a little bit smaller.
Right.
Jesse, I think it was last year, The Athletic put out a list of the best young goaltenders not in the NHL. And, Askarov was on there and Devin Levi was on there. But number one on the list was Jesper Walstad. And if you look at the year that he had in Iowa, I don't know, maybe he read that article and sort of rested on his laurels because it was not a good year. Now, he signed a 2-year extension for $2.2 million. And unless there's somebody that I don't know about, he's going to be the backup to Philip Gustafsson. But what is the expectation for Walstad going into next season?
Jesper had a very tough year, not only in Iowa, but this year, the role that he was expected to play was very kind of unsure. The original goal was they were going to carry 3 goaltenders. They were going to have him platooning in because nobody really knew what kind of year Philip Gustafsson was going to have. He had a terrible year the season prior. Everybody was kind of wondering, is he going to be the guy? Now, lucky for Minnesota, he was the guy, and he was absolutely tremendous and had a great bounce back year. But that's unfortunate for Jesper Walstad then, because you have Marc-Andre Fleury, who's capable and able to back him up. So you're needing Jesper less. Whereas I think after training camp, when they announced that they were going to carry 3 goalies, I think that got in Jesper's head a little bit. He is such a smart guy. And sometimes, especially for a goaltender, I think that could work against him. I think he's very, very intelligent. He cut open a vein when he was up here for one game and had mentioned how hard mentally this season had been. If there was a guy that ever needed the end of a year to come soon, it was Jesper. I mean, in Iowa, he just struggled. Now, that being said, there can't be any concern because Marc-Andre Fleury has retired and he is gone. Now they went and got Kyle Peterson as that depth goalie that can go and step into, obviously, Philip Gustafsson. You're hoping continues.
Maybe we're not quite sure.
Right? I'm not so sure about that.
He might be the emergency e-bug.
That's job security for Jesper.
Yes, right. So the hope is there's no concern. I had asked Bill Garin about that at the end of the year too. I'm like, how do we feel? And Jesper spending the summer here. He's going to work with the team where Minnesota's obviously had a lot of success with having players do that and stay here locally and learn some things. But he'll get the opportunity. And basically you hate to say sink or swim, but you were a first round pick, man. You were a first round goalie. You're expected. This is the role that you want. And I think he'll do okay. It makes you a little anxious, right? Again, it'd be great. Sure. Philip Gustafsson can still have the lion's share and it can be a very true 1A in a backup situation, which is fine. And Jesper's still young. He's still learning the NHLA and he hasn't gotten, I don't think, the taste that he has wanted to. But as of right now, he is the backup unless anything else crazy happens.
One more important question, just because you brought up the Iowa Wild. Why did they change from the Iowa Chops? It was so much more exciting of a name than the Iowa Wild. Why did they make that change?
The Chops were the Ducks. So they've had like a couple iterations down there. So the Houston Aeros used to be Minnesota's affiliate.
Yes.
Okay.
The Iowa Chops were the Ducks affiliate. And then when they moved the Houston Aeros to Iowa, they renamed them the Iowa Wild. There was one other iteration. It was the Chops, and there was somebody else too.
I liked it when they were the Chops. That was good.
I would go and intern on like game nights there, but I only remember that because Bobby Ryan was playing in the American Hockey League for the Chops. So I had met Bobby Ryan back in the day when that's how old we are. Jesus. But
well, listen, I covered the guy in the World Juniors. I covered Bobby Ryan in the World Juniors. So
Right. Yeah. So that's the reason why. I mean, it is kind of lame to go with just your namesake, right? Like, oh, we're both the Wild. But it is 100 times better to have them 3 hours away versus in Houston. That just makes way more sense, right? Especially with the way that they've been calling on those Iowa Wild players as much as they have the past 2 seasons.
No, that's true. Hey, listen, Jesse, thanks so much for coming on. Everybody should check her out at NHL.com, Bar Down Beauties podcast, and we'll end at the Beauty League.
Yeah, Beauty League starts tonight. That's why I had to shift. So again, appreciate you guys accommodating me in my time. 4-on-4 hockey, NHL players. I think Justin Hall will be out there tonight.
Well, wait a second. We're talking about NHL players.
Brock Nelson's playing on night one, dude. Relax.
Brock Nelson is playing. Yeah, he's in it. Ryan Lindgren, I think, is playing. And a couple younger guys, usually Nate Schmidt, but I'm sure he's had quite the long summer, so he's probably going to take a little time.
He doesn't care. You think Nate? I was on the ice with him in Florida. He was so happy. He doesn't care.
I'm so happy for him. If anything, like I like the Panthers just fine, but if anything, I was so thrilled to see Nate Schmidt get that because he is the sweetest human being and he's so wonderful. And plus, the Stanley Cup gets to come to Minnesota, which is what I care about as well. We get to have that little glimpse, but no, it's a really fun league. It's hockey in summer. It can get very competitive come August because it'll go every week through August, almost up to training camp here. Guys just kind of getting in shape, and we'll be out there. Yeah, Wednesday nights. They have the women playing as well, so a bunch of PW players will be out there. Plus, you can catch a glimpse at some good college players as well. So it should be fun.
Looking forward to it.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Cut me out. Wow.
No.
I was loading up for the question. I'm glad you at least asked it, Russ, but I was going to ask.
I know. I'm sorry. Like, it was funny.
It's okay.
It was like,
you cut this part out too.
In the flow of it.
I had to get my Justin Hall jab in there.
Of course you did. As if
it's just the flow of
the low-hanging fruit.
It's fine. It's
low-hanging fruit, but it's still nutritious.
So, Mike, I was on Sirius XM yesterday, and I was on with Jay Kahn and Mick Kern.
I'm actually going to be on tomorrow with Mick.
See, there you go.
Yep.
And
I'm the only one that hasn't been on yet, but they have no reason to come to me. So.
There must be a reason there, Anthony.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they played an interview with Michelli that morning that they had taped from the Leafs, phone call, Zoom call. Mm-hmm. And the big thing that I took from that was, and I answered the question on the show, because Michelli was like, well, that this year there was just, my ice time just got diminished, and and that was a reason my offense dropped. And I was like, no, the reason your ice time diminished is because you were 4% in the defensive zone. So I wonder, again, if he's going to work on that, because that's why his ice time diminished. It wasn't because he can't score on offense. It's because in this league now, you've got to be able to play some defense, or coaches, including Craig Berube, is going to eventually get tired of it.
I don't think the problem was him playing defense in spite of that stat, Russ. I think he could not settle in, from what I understand, he could not settle in on one line with Utah. I don't know whether the move from Arizona to Salt Lake affected him, or I don't know. I mean, I'm not him. All I know is that it was reported that, he played on the second line, it didn't work. He played on the third line, it didn't work. He played on the fourth line, it didn't work. And then he was a healthy scratch. It just wasn't working. And this is a guy who scored 57 points the year before, 40 assists. So, I know that we were messaging each other, and I think, Shane Doan, who was with the Coyotes, who his son Josh was Michelli's line mate for a time, he knows the player, and it was a low risk in terms of they gave up a conditional third-round pick, and his salary is, I think, $3.4 million. They're hoping he gets back to the player that he was not last season, but the season before. And if he does, and if they insert him on a line with Tavares and Nylander, which I think he's sort of penciled in, then I think it could be a recipe for success. But that's not going to prevent them from doing other things. They have to do other things, and I don't know if that's going to be Roslovic or I have a theory, and I'm going to write about it today on a Hockey Hot Stove. I'm convinced that if Roslovic is not the answer, that the answer will be moving Max Domi to the wing on the line with Matthews, like he did play with Matthews in the playoffs and late in the season 2 years ago. And I think that's a fit. And then they go out and probably sign a unrestricted free agent, like somebody who they were talking to or who they were talking about before the deadline, a guy like Luke Cunnin, who can play third line, who's can play center or wing. I think they're probably going to bring Pacioretty back. It's not going to be a complete thing. I think they're going to leave themselves a little leeway so they can make additions at the deadline. There's simply, if you look at the free agent pool right now, there's nobody of real impact there. I don't know if Roslovic is an impact, and I don't think.
Yeah, I think you're right about Roslovic, because otherwise they could have signed him already. Like, what would be?
I mean, the numbers in Carolina were. I mean, his numbers were decent. But we all saw what happened once we got down to, towards the postseason where he was sitting. So you have to take, if you're not playing the 200-foot game, you're going to sit you, and that's something that has to be under consideration.
Well, I mean, for the reports are what they're waiting for, what they're trying to do, and I think there's a couple irons in the fire here. They're trying to move Kampf. They're trying to get clear that his salary, he's making $2.4 million. I've always connected him to New Jersey, but the thing is, they re-signed Cody Glass, so I don't know if there's a need for Kampf. Probably not. But they need, they need insurance with Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes goes down every year. Not to say David Kampf is a replacement for Jack Hughes, but you need help up the middle, and and his salary right now is not big.
But they could go over on the summer cap. I don't think that's a legit reason. I think if they wanted Roslovic, they would sign him already.
Well, that puts him in a position of being vulnerable, like on a guy like.
They have 4.9 free. Would you really pay him more than 4 anyhow?
I wouldn't, but based on him being like the best unrestricted free agent out there, he probably could demand 3.5. He only made, I think, 2.8 last year.
All right. So if he gets 3.5, they still have cap space while they're trying to move Kampf. So I think you're right. I think it's somebody else. I just, otherwise I think they would have gone that route.
Or a trade, or maybe potentially something in a trade route. I don't know, Mike.
Well, and last thing on the Leafs, I mean, it's funny that, and I don't get it unless they're trading for somebody who is a more mobile defenseman, like we've talked about, that they want to get somebody who might be a puck rusher or a power play guy. And Morgan Riley is not waiving his no move clause, so I wish they would stop with these bullcrap rumors. But there's been talk out there about Brandon Carlo. And I mean, maybe the fact that he's really attractive at 28 years old and making less than $4 million, that they could get somebody young and on a scoring winger, but
why would they wouldn't do that?
Why they have been,
Is there something about Carlo that they're just
no? He was great in Boston.
That's what I say. He was great in Boston, but potentially,
and
do they see?
He had a good year last year,
and he did have a good year, yeah.
But it might be the fact that now the thing is, they were chasing a right-hand shot defenseman forever, and they paid a hefty price for Carlo. So I can't see it. I think it's just people whipping up bull crap, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we mentioned it. Matt Murray signed in Seattle. Just saying. All right. So now let's.
No, it's important. No, listen, that was an important.
Listen, Mike. When Matt Murray has his,
there's certain people's names that have to come up on this show. I don't know if there's some sort of secret blood contractual thing between you and Mike.
Yeah, I'm happy for Matt Murray. Now he's going to be the number 3 behind Grubauer and Decord in Seattle. I'm happy he's able to continue his career. He had a great year in the American Hockey League last year, and he played a couple games for the Leafs. He was the safety net. That's what he was. But now they think, Hildeby might be ready to be that number 3 behind Wall.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, if he does anything, he could probably take Grubauer's job at some point, like if they ever give him the chance. Right. I mean, so that's I think it's a good spot for him. And we did talk about numbers here with Cam York, what we thought the Flyers would sign him at. They got him under even that 5.25 at 5.15. Yeah. It's a good deal. I always say to people, look, right now, you don't know what's going to happen with him and a new coach. That's something that
it's an open-ended question.
That'll play out. So now he's got a price, and he'll be a Flyer for as long as they want him.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's very obvious from us talking to York yesterday that he seems pretty excited about, and all players are going to say they're very excited about a new coach coming in. But there's also, we know that players all talk about, different coaches, what their style is. So I think York's got every right to be enthusiastic about things, especially if he looks at, how, Quinn Hughes obviously has his natural talent to begin with, but you could see York being utilized in a similar manner, I think, in Philly. And again, the commitment now is that he's the second highest paid defenseman on the Flyers. He's basically, he and Sanheim are the Flyers' top pair. I think he'll certainly get his opportunities on the power play, which obviously dried up very quickly in the final year with John Tortorella. So he's going to get his chances. It's going to be up to him to be able to kind of grab a hold of those and be able to play better and to be able to improve his own defensive game in this case. And I know he talked a lot about feeling that there was a lot to give. He had more to give offensively, but I also thought last year he wasn't, even after with the injury, or even after the injury, that he was fabulous.
He wasn't himself.
It's definitely a confidence thing. So I think for him, it's a good spot. I think the environment is there too. I mean, now he's obviously he's very excited about Trevor Zegras joining the Flyers. Jamie Drysdale, obviously, it's the three of those kind of three amigos, so to speak, together now on the team. So it's not a case where, it's going to be fascinating to see how he's used and the expectations that are obviously going to be placed on him that he's the second highest paid defenseman on the team.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And like I said, this doesn't preclude them from trading him in the future.
It doesn't. There's and it's understood that as a restricted free, he wasn't going to have there's only 2 years of that deal. The end was UFA years where that would have come into play. So that it still doesn't necessarily mean that he isn't somebody that they might decide to trade away at a certain point. But I think for now, the intention of the Flyers is we've signed you long-term. The agreement was made.
Yep.
We're going to commit and let's see how things go under Tocchet.
Yeah.
And Todd Reardon.
Yeah. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. So let's talk real quick. We'll do a couple more things. We've got the Isaac Howard trade. So that's an interesting one. Finally, he's in Edmonton now. Good for him. Good for Edmonton. Mike won't say that, but I will. Sam O'Reilly's he's a pretty good player.
I thought that was a pretty good. I thought that was a very tidy, very tidy, solid return.
Yeah, it's as good.
I could see him easily fitting in Tampa.
Yeah, it's as good a return as you can get, knowing that the guy was leaving, and so you get a good all-around center/wing, whatever he's going to play. He could play both.
Well, if Edmonton takes anybody in the first round, they're going to get traded because they trade every one of their first-round picks, or they lose them in restricted free agency.
Tampa also is known for its.
I can't fight about that
for its sleep them picks mentality.
But I did write about Howard on. Go ahead, Mike. If you.
No, I was just going to say. I mean, I know you wrote about Howard, but my question is, and this is Stan Bowman here. I hope they would have had some contact with Isaac Howard that he's going to sign, because if he's going to go, well, I would hope so.
No, his contract was already agreed to.
Oh, okay,
that's the reason why in the press release.
That's why they got
he agreed to a 3-year contract. It's already locked in.
Yeah, that's why they got a return.
I didn't hear that, but then okay. And Russ, I think O'Reilly is the best return they could. The only thing it was either O'Reilly or Savoy.
Right.
And I think probably O'Reilly is because he's a bigger player and he had a really good year with London last year. I think that's a pretty good return for Joe.
Yeah, here's what I want to say, though. And like I said, I wrote about Howard on NHLDraftBuzz.com. I had a lot of exposure to him with the U.S. program, saw him a lot, saw him in the USHL, saw him in international competitions and all. The big thing is don't look at him as a 5'11" guy. This guy plays much bigger than that. And I think that's something where people are now starting to get trained. Oh, he's not that big a guy. And look, they got O'Reilly. He's a big guy, and the big guy has to be better. He's not better. No, Howard's better. So yeah, and it's only 2 inches, but Mike, you know how it is. All of a sudden,
it was what's the best we can get for him. Howard was always going to be the guy in that deal, and whatever it is you're getting back, you're getting something of use, but you're not getting quite this. You're not quite getting the same player,
right? No, the Hobie Baker's not a guarantee of success, but I would say in the last 5 years, it kind of has been a guarantee of success. That's kind of changed as college hockey's changed. Yeah. You know, the Gavin McKenna thing, we're not going to make a big deal about it because we knew it was coming.
It's a big enough deal. It is a.
Oh no, I just mean
it's a title. It's not a surprise.
No,
but it's officially a title change. I think for college hockey. Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of an existential situation now for Canadian juniors. And again, Canadian juniors will recalibrate and reconsider how they're doing things. But this is now going to be a far more equalized playing field. Depending, it's going to come down to what the player is really going to want between, they're going to play again. The trade-off is if you want to play a little bit more and simulate more of an NHL environment, the CHL still has that versus college hockey, which games are predominantly on weekends. But if it's purely from the point of view of getting your guys developed, less potential wear and tear on your players as well, it's going to come down to, again, a combination of what the player wants, and also obviously if the player is drafted, what the NHL team is going to want as well.
Yeah. To point out to Dan, no, Penn State is not planning a parade, but they did make it to the Frozen Four last year.
This is a team that's knocking on the door and has got
they were good last year,
added an incredible player.
But they didn't have the scoring punch. So they lost a guy like Charlie Serrato, who did get drafted, and they got Gavin McKenna and Jackson Smith and maybe Porter Martone.
That's the question right now. The question is there for the hockey program, are they reaching a certain point here where by taking McKenna that maybe then in this case maybe that's the thing. Everybody's automatically anticipating. It's going to be Philly's going to want Martone and Penn State. I said it's not a guarantee that Penn State at this point is going to.
Correct.
If they don't have it if they don't have it in their budget, it may be and Martone may look at it and say, I'm a sixth overall pick. I have the option of going to the NHL in this case, or going
or Michigan State, who offered.
Or again, Michigan State may look at this and say, "Okay, Penn State, you want to turn this into an arms race? Okay, we're going to make a big offer now, potentially to Porter Martone."
Well, it's going to be interesting to see at the 2026 draft, which I hope we're all going to be at right now. And things can change. Hagens was the projected number 1 overall pick a year or so ago, and he didn't end up going till 7th. But right now, the top 2 projected players for 2026, McKenna and Keaton Verhoff, are going to the NCAA. Verhoff is going to North
Dakota. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, I can't remember the last time you had 2 college players going 1-2. So that's going to be very.
It's a sea change, like I said. It's a title change. We have this is absolutely a title change now. And again, also for a player like Verhoff, who I'm fascinated by because he's a former goaltender, right, Russ?
Yeah,
he's converting to D, and I always like that idea because and talking with Jason, I was chatting with Jason Martinez last night.
Yeah,
and he was saying, I like that because again, his vision's got to be goaltender's vision's got to be really, really, really good. So if he's bringing that to the defense position, that's one of the biggest reasons. And you add his frame, 6'4" frame.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He's.
I still don't know if he's number 2, but we'll see.
I think he's in the 2 to 4. I think he's anywhere in the 2 to 4 range.
Mike, my brain instantly kicked in. I don't know if this is the exact answer, but it is one of the answers. So the 2000 draft: Rick DiPietro, BU; Danny Heatley, University of Wisconsin.
Okay, there you go.
I remember that.
It's happened. It's happened, but it's not to the point where we're seeing where there's this feeling that it's that there's a lot. It's a major change. But again, NIL changes everything
for this year. But like I said, we'll get into it right now we're in the summer for that. Yeah. And again, they're not going to plan the parade because a lot of times teams that win are teams that have
older players too. Again, although Penn State's got a lot of good players and guys who are going to be on that team that are going to be, having that experience, but certain core guys in this case are going to be fascinating to see how those guys go. And again, Philly's going to be fascinated as well because, again, you have Jack Murtagh going to BU, and you've got Shane Van Zaghi going back to Michigan State. He's going to probably be figuring into things as well. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of eyes on college hockey this year for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. So, Bowen Byram, everybody's sick of talking about him. Everybody's sick of what might happen. Nothing's happened.
No, I mean, it was the weekend was very interesting because you had Byram and his camp pass on the arbitration, and then the Sabres elect for arbitration. And the reason they did that is because that takes the offer sheet off the table. But now they basically give Darren Ferris the whip hand because he can say, okay, I want arbitration for 2 years. And he's 2 years away from unrestricted free agency. And knowing Darren Ferris, and everybody knows Darren Ferris, his edict is walk to free agency. So I think if they go 2 years and he signs a deal, he loses value. I think not because he's going to be any less of a player, but what I think is he loses value because these teams know that Ferris won't sign an extension next summer, that he's going to walk in 2 years. So if they're going to trade him, they better trade him before his arbitration hearing. Otherwise, who knows what happens.
At some point, they're just going to be called the Buffalo Walkers because everybody goes there for a short amount of time. They eventually get traded or leave because of contract problems or every other thing. Like, this is a cycle that just doesn't stop repeating itself.
No, and I don't know what Kevin Adams is getting offers for Byram. There's been a lot of talk about St. Louis, and St. Louis, the name like Jake Neighbors has come up and Snuggerud has come up. I mean, if they're being offered Jake Neighbors for Byram, I don't know why they're not doing it. That seems to me a perfect fit. Now, if they're not getting offered that and they're only getting offered, futures, then they may think the 2 years, risk it and go with the 2 years. They've got to make the playoffs in the next year or two, or everybody who's here right now is going to be gone.
Yeah. All right. That's it for Off the Post. We'll catch everybody next time.
Take care, everybody.
And I didn't hit the microphone.